Okay, so a couple of definitions before you get into the circumference and area of circles. The radius is from the center of the circle to the circle itself. That's the distance from that center to the circle itself. And the diameter is the distance across the circle through the center. What we find with the diameter and the radius is always half of the diameter. So if you have the radius and you need the diameter for your formula, then you have to just take the radius and double it, multiply by 2. To find a circumference, so the formula for circumference, we always use capital C to represent circumference. That formula is equal to pi times the diameter. So for that, we're going to need the diameter. So if you only have the radius, again, double it and then multiply that by pi. And the area for the circle, the formula for the area of a circle, I should say, is equal to pi again times the radius squared. Now, again, on your calculator, that means you can hit the x squared button. So you type in the number and then you hit x squared and then multiply by pi, and there is a button on your calculator for pi. Oftentimes we will use 3.14 as an approximation of pi. So if the problem tells you to use the pi button, then you just hit the pi button on your calculator. If it tells you to use 3.14, you do that. So for each of these formula, for the first example, we have the circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. Well, if the radius is 12, double that, we get 24. Again, simple math. So when we take our 24 and multiply it by pi, we get 75.3982239. This says to round to the nearest tenth. The nearest tenth is the decimal, the first decimal rather, and we have a 9 after a 3, so the 3 goes up to 4. So that becomes 75.4. We use our units, and that's it. We don't put a squared, we don't put a cubed, because what we're doing is just measuring the amount of steps you would have to take if you take inch-long steps, the amount of steps you'd have to take to go around the outside of the circle. Area. So for this same example, the area is equal to pi times radius squared. Well, if we take 12 and type it in our calculator and then hit the x squared button, we get 144. So we simply take 144 and multiply it by pi, and we get 452.38. So the 8 again causes the 3 to go up, so that gives us 452.4. This time it is inches squared. Okay, every time you do an area of any shape, it's always units squared. If you do a volume, as we did yesterday, then you're dealing with inches cubed. Okay, because there's 3 dimensions that you're taking into account. Here we're just taking in 2 dimensions. So again, just like before, that means that 452.4 approximately little tiny squares that are 1 by 1 can fit inside of this circle. Now, obviously, it's hard to draw squares, but that's the basic idea. Okay, so once again, number 2, circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. So in this case, it's going to be pi times not 14, but 14 doubled, which is 28. So we type in 28 times pi equals, we get 87.96. Now I'm going to write that out because This is a curious case. When we take the 6 into account, it causes the 9 to go up 1. Well, the next thing up is 10. So if we turn that into 10, it actually changes the 7 as well to an 88. And we're just going to call it 88 because that would be 88.0. And that is kilometers. Again, not squared, just kilometers. There's your circumference, distance around the outside. Then our area for this circle is going to be pi times the radius squared. And again, you can write that 14 squared. So when you type it in your calculator, you could literally type in pi times 14x squared, hit equals, and it gives you 615.75. The 5 causes the 7 to go up, so we get 615.8 kilometers squared. Okay, so that's how we do every one of these problems. If they just give you the radius, okay, then you use that. If they don't have a drawing, such as number 5, you can see here on number 5, they just give us the radius at 2.6. So when you plug that in for your whichever formula you're using, circumference or area, when you plug that in, again, if you're doing the circumference, you have to double that, so 2.6 times 2. And if you're doing the area, you have to take that and square it, okay, just like I did in example number 2. So I would like you to finish 3 through 10 on your own. Now I'm going to switch to a different page. On this page we have a volume. So we're going to be looking at the volume formula. The formula is already written for us there. And it's the same idea. Basically, you just need to know what your radius is and what your height is. R stands for radius, H stands for height. There should be no mistaking those. So if we're looking at volume, that is the formula pi times the radius squared times the height. So if I look at this first example, number 1, we have volume is equal to pi. Again, the button on your calculator. Actually, this particular thing, I just noticed, they say use 3.14 to approximate pi. So I'm going to erase the pi symbol and write 3.14. That's going to be multiplied by the radius squared. And most of us should know that we take 5 and we square it, we get 25, but I'm going to write it out here just so we remember we're taking that and squaring it, and then we multiply it by the height, which is 6. So again, type it all right in your calculator. 3.14 times 5x squared times 6 equals. And that gives you a number 471. And this is the difference between using pi and using the approximation. A lot of times when you use the approximation, the beauty is it gives you a whole number, or at the very least 1 decimal. Now that is 471 millimeters cubed. Okay, that's cubed because there are 3 dimensions to that cylinder. Same idea with number 2. I'll write that one underneath number 2 because there's not a lot of space there. So we have pi, or in this case 3.14, as the approximation of pi, times 3 squared times 6. Okay, type it in your calculator. 3.14 times 3x squared times 6 equals. And this time it gave me 2 decimal places. It gives me 169.56. So I write the 169, the 0.56. The 6 causes the 5 to go up to a 6. And again, it is units, which in this case is meters cubed. Make sure you label your answers. Okay? And that is the basic idea for finding volume. So you have your circumference and area on the first page, and then we're finding volume here with these 6 problems. There is one more page attached. Between today and tomorrow, I want you to get that finished, this entire worksheet, and also a IXL, which I will put up on the screen. So between today and tomorrow, you have to have both of those things finished, or you get points docked. It's entirely on you. Okay, so for today, we're doing several different things. We are going to be doing the